Hey guys, it's Will down from Magic, the Friendly Tavern on Facebook, and today we're going to be looking at my Sharuum Tier 2 Artifact Combo deck. I'm real popular for this deck. This deck's got 1,821 views. It is the most viewed Sharuum combo, or Sharuum deck on the site. If you go into your filters and filter by most viewed, and then type in Sharuum, this deck will pop up on the top. I also have a primer on this deck. Now, we can sit here and look at all these cards individually and stuff like that, but I have a better idea how we can do this. But it's going to take a little bit of work. But the first thing I got to show you is Sharuum herself. As you can see here, Sharuum is a 6-mana 5/5 flyer, and Sharuum is also a legendary artifact creature, and that's important. The legendary part and the artifact part are both very important about Sharuum. It's actually what allows us to combo with Sharuum. Then what also allows us to combo is her ETB, which says when she enters the battlefield, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So she will get something back from the graveyard. Yeah, she is 6 mana, but this is an artifact-based deck. So us creating mana is like no problem. Like I can hit 10 mana by turn 5 nearly every single time. The combo we're doing is expensive and it's slower than most other CDH combos, but we make up for that in lots of ways. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the, oh boy, that's not what I'm looking for. There we go. I am going to go into the hand creator down here on, I'm sorry if that like messing people up, the hand creator right here on Moxfield. We're going to hit playtest, and I'm going to sit here and draw all the cards out of my library, and then we're going to rearrange them, and then we're going to talk about them. Now, while I'm rearranging them, I'm going to pause the video. So, give me a second, and we'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm ready. So, we don't have Sharuum here in our actual hand builder, so we can't play with her. That's why I had to show her off before we got here. And then I had to put everything in order. And believe it or not, this is it. This is what my deck does. My deck does 5 things. It produces either A, combo pieces, disruption, draw effects, and mission briefing kind of counts as that, tutor effects, ramp, or lands. More mana. That's it. That is all my deck does. There is no more to this. So we should actually go over my combo lines to begin with. Pull out my combo pieces here. I've got a bunch, as you can tell, because I run a bunch of combos. And we'll get to those here in a second. As soon as I finish pulling them all out. Okay. And finally. So let's talk about the first combo. First combo is our mainline combo. And that consists of these cards right here that I'm putting to the left. You see, Sharuum's legendary and she's an artifact. Plus, she can ETB an artifact out of the graveyard. So, if you take and get a Sculpting Steel here, and you have Sculpting Steel come into play as a copy of Sharuum, you'll have 2 legendary Sharuums in play, and you'll have to choose one to send it to the graveyard. Well, the new Sharuum that came in is ETB to return an artifact from the graveyard to the battlefield will be on the stack. And what you can do is then get back the one that you just threw in the graveyard. So like you have Sharuum in play, you play Sculpting Steel, turn it into Sharuum, ditch the first Sharuum, use the ETB from the new Sharuum to bring back the old Sharuum. It comes into play. Then it's legendary. You have the same problem. You send the Sculpting Steel to the graveyard, And then you use the ETB of the original Sharuum that just came back in to get back Sculpting Steel. Now, this is creating a loop through your graveyard. You're now looping infinitely artifacts through your graveyard using Sharuum and Sculpting Steel. And the great thing about Sculpting Steel is there's another redundant piece in Phyrexian Metamorph. So Phyrexian Metamorph does the exact same thing as Sculpting Steel. It even costs the same, except for if you pay the 2 life for the Phyrexian mana. So it's not even all that worse. Sometimes, you know, it's great. And in a pinch, it can come into play as another creature. Maybe your opponent controls, and you can win through that. Maybe you can make your own Thassa's Oracle after you, and then deck yourself. You know, it could happen. So Phyrexian Metamorph is really good. Sculpting Steel, again, has the added advantage of becoming any artifact. So if you need more ramp or whatever you need that of an artifact, you can do that. So it's pretty cool. Next up, we're the way we kill people. Okay, so we're looping these through the graveyard. They're not really doing anything for us. So we need to kill our opponent. So we have Altar of the Brood over here. And what Altar of the Brood does as it says, whenever another opponent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library in their graveyard. So every time another permanent ETBs, which will be our looping Sharuums, you mill your opponents. So you can just mill everybody out at the table and then pass turn, and they will die when they go to draw a card out of an empty library. Sometimes you can't always deck them because they will have an Eldrazi or another shuffle effect. To where whenever they deck, they get all their cards from the graveyard get shuffled back in. So it doesn't always work. So that's why there's Plan B, which is Disciple of the Vault. And Disciple of the Vault says, whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from play, you may have a target opponent lose 1 life. So this is our backup plan. Now, the cool thing... Sorry, my stylus isn't wanting to work tonight. The cool thing about this is you can use this spell right here, Intuition. Search your library for 3 cards, reveal them to an opponent. An opponent chooses 1. Put that card in your hand and put the rest into the graveyard. Shuffle your library afterwards. So, we use Intuition right here. And we grab Altar of the Brood, Phyrexian Metamorph, and Sculpting Steel right out of our library. Hand them to our opponent. And now it doesn't really matter which one they pitch to our graveyard out of these 3 cards. Because when Sharuum ETBs, we can get back an artifact. So say they pitch, they hand us Sculpting Steel and pitch these 2. Well, we need Altar of the Brood. We don't really need Phyrexian Metamorph because we have this. So we play Sharuum, get back Phyrexian Metamorph to play, and then play our Sculpting Steel, then start the combo. Say they give us Altar of the Brood, but they leave Sculpting Steel and Phyrexian Metamorph in the graveyard. We can do the same thing. Sharuum comes in, ETBs, returns us to the battlefield, starts the loop, but we play the Altar of the Brood first. The only thing about Intuition and this setup is if we cannot use the Disciple of the Vault with the Intuition grab, it just will not work. Because they can pitch Disciple of the Vault if they know what they're doing, and we cannot get it back out of the graveyard with a Sharuum's ETB. Now, if we're sly and they are not exactly sure what they're doing and the whole table's never seen this before, we could go for it. But I wouldn't recommend it against your regular play group or somebody that's seen Sharuum before, because that could really hurt you. So that's our main combo line. It takes 9 mana to do, so it is expensive, but I can usually do it turn 5 80% of the time. Seriously. And next, we're going to look at our next lines of combo, and that's going to be our 3 infinite mana generation combos. So right now, we have Grim Monolith. Grim Monolith plus power artifact equals infinite mana. Infinite colorless mana. I kid you not. That 4 mana right there. All you have to do is enchant. Hold on. All you have to do is put this enchant artifact. Activation cost target artifact is reduced by 2. It can't go below 1. So there's that. So it's never free. But what we're doing is Grim Monolith pays 2, but it comes in and it creates 3 colorless mana. But we can pay 4 to untap it. Well, if we put Power Artifact on it, that untap ability becomes 2. So we generate 3, pay 2 to untap it, generate 3 more, pay 2 to untap it. We're netting 1 each time, so that's infinite mana. That's it. That's all we need for infinite mana, or those 2 cards right there. And then we have all sorts of finishers. We can do Walking Ballista. Walking Ballista enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista. It deals 1 damage to any target. We aren't worried about putting a counter on it. We can make it at 5 billion come into play and kill all of our opponents. So that's the easiest way, honestly. So there's that. The next thing we can do is Staff of Dom. Staff of Domination. We can pay 5 to draw a card, then pay 1 to untap it. Pay 5 to draw a card. You get the picture. So we draw our entire deck. And from there, with an empty library, we can just play Thassa's Oracle and win. Or we can win through another way. Any of our other combos, we can win through there. Our other combos. We're already making the infinite mana to do this. And once we get that, we get access to our colored mana through our rocks. And we can come up with a win. Usually, one of them will involve Blue Sun Zenith, which is down here somewhere. Here it is, Blue Sun Zenith. Blue Sun Zenith says, X, 3 blue, target player draws X cards, shuffle Blue Sun Zenith back into its owner's library. So if we deck ourselves and have no cards in our library, and then shoot this at an opponent for infinite mana and make them draw from an empty library because we made them draw their entire library plus 1 more card, they die. Blue Sun Zenith shuffles back into our empty library, becomes the top card of our library. Hold on, the close button's not wanting to work. Patience. That's why. Okay, I figured it out. Then we can use our little cantrips, like this 1 mana blue spell that draws a card. Well, not that one. Not particularly that one either. But we can use a cantrip to get back the spell and then replay it. And once we do that, we can just hit the next opponent and then hit the next opponent again. So it's not really that big a deal, but we do have to be able to produce the blue mana. So that'll come up. But we can do that. Just give me a second. Okay. We can do that with this combo right here. So we get Isochron Scepter plus... hold on. I want to show you one more thing. Down here is Basalt Monolith. And Basalt Monolith says, add 3, pay 3 to untap it. If we power Artifact Basalt Monolith, that untap ability will cost 1, so we can tap for 3 and do it. This also will give us infinite colorless mana. So this is another redundant piece. Another redundant piece of the whole thing. And we're going to talk about Basalt Monolith again here in a second. So we'll leave it out here. So Blue Sun Zenith is one of our finishers. Staff of Domination is one of our finishers. Next up is Isochron Scepter plus Dramatic Reversal. Isochron Scepter says, imprint when it enters the battlefield, you exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. You may pay 2 and tap it. If you do, you can copy the exile spell. If you do, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. We want to copy Dramatic Reversal. Untap all non-land permanents you control that includes the Scepter. It'll untap itself, and then we can reuse it. And all we have to do is have some mana rocks, like from this pile out there, like 3 or 4, so we're netting at least 1 mana, hopefully colored mana, and then boom, we got infinite colored mana or infinite colorless mana. It doesn't matter. We're still doing infinite mana. Like I said, I'm running 3 infinite mana combos in here. I have already shown you 3 because of the redundant piece with Basalt Monolith. But we're going to go into another one next. So after that, you can do your finishers again. You can go ahead and Blue Sun Zenith, or you can Staff of Dom, or oh boy, you can pretty much do whatever you need to do after you make all that infinite mana. If you have another combo piece, you can Walking Ballista if you want. Go ahead and just fire him up. So that's how that works. See, the finishers are interchangeable between the combos, mostly, for the most part. So it's not really, you don't really get stuck as hard as you do as if all the combos were different from each other and had no synergy. These are layered combos. They're layered together and they work together in tandem. Now, next, what we're going to talk about is, oh boy. So let me get this back down here. Next, what we're going to talk about is Rings of Bright Hearth plus Basalt Monolith. Now, Rings of Bright Hearth does not work with Grim Monolith, unfortunately. It goes even. It breaks even. It doesn't actually generate. So, tap for 3 mana, have 2 colorless somewhere else. When you tap, this is going to, when you tap it, use the 3 mana that you generated off the rock itself, and then pay the 3 to untap it. This untap will go on the stack, and it will trigger Rings of Bright Hearth, which says if it's not a mana ability, you can pay 2. If you do, copy that ability and choose new targets for it, activated ability, which it is. So you get 2 untaps. So you use 1 untap to untap it, then you tap it in response to the other trigger, then you resolve the other trigger, and you make 6 mana. Then you use 5 of that mana to pay for the untap, and then you pay 2 for the Basalt Monolith, and then you're netting 1. And then you're going infinite colorless mana again. So there's another infinite mana generation right there. And then once you have that infinite mana generation, you can do any of your finishers that we talked about before, or Sensei's Divining Top. You can tap to draw a card. You can copy that ability, so it draws, puts the Sensei's Top on top, and then the second trigger will trigger, and you will draw Sensei's Top back. And since you have infinite mana, you just play it again, and that'll allow you to draw your entire deck, like the Staff of Dom or, Blue Sun Zenith or whatever. This is another way to draw your entire deck. So there's that combo. That's all those combo lines right there. That is all my infinite mana combos and finishers. That was that section. Next up, we are going to talk about Thassa's Oracle with Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact. Now, the thing about this is everybody knows this combo. It's not really that big, but what it is Thassa's Oracle says, all this line of text says, basically for each blue pip you have among permanents you control, you look at the top X cards of your library. If you actually have more blue pips than you have cards in your library, you win the game on the spot. Kind of silly. So we have her in here, and what we do is we use Demonic Consultation, name a card, then reveal the 6 cards from your library. If it was revealed in that way, don't worry about it. Then exile cards from the top of your library until you reveal the named card. If you name a card not in your library, you'll exile your entire library. Thassa will come down. She has 2 pips herself, or 2 blue pips herself, that count towards her devotion. So you'll have 2 over 0, which will make you win the game. So these 2 right here by themselves will make you win the game. This 3 mana. This is 4 and does the same thing with Tainted Pact. You exile the top card of your library, and unless it has the same name as another card exiled this way, which will never happen because we're in a singleton format, and we do not run but 1 basic land of each type and an extra snow land or snow island, but we can get away with that because it has a different name. So we only run 4 basics. Repeat this process until you put a card in your hand and exile the 2. You don't have to put a card in your hand. You can just spell Divine. So then you can exile your entire library with this. So this combo right here will set you up to win the game. Now, the reason I'm running this combo is completely devoid of artifacts. That way, and it's really cheap. And so if I get locked under Stony Silence with the 3, maybe 4 lands I have in play, because I don't run very many lands at all, I might be able to pull this combo off under a Stony Silence. It's the only reason I run Thassa's Oracle. I mean, yeah, it's good. Yeah, I can turn 3 people. I've turned 3 people all the time. I've had one time where I've turned 2 for somebody. That was with a different combo. That was actually with Grim Monolith, Power Artifact, and Walking Ballista. But yeah, I've gotten this combo off turn 3 a lot. So it works good. It's a good combo. It's gonna stay in the deck until they ban Thassa's Oracle. But we're not gonna talk about that. So that's what those are for. These are also really good to put on a Isochron Scepter, so it's mission briefing. These are all excellent to put on Isochron Scepter to make a value engine. Just a real cheap value engine. Power Artifact can be put on Staff of Domination to make it a little bit less painful to use. Okay, so right now we're at the 20-minute mark, and it's really hard for me to upload videos longer than that. So we talked about the combos. We're going to come back in the next video, and we are going to talk about the rest of the deck. We're going to talk about the counter spells, the draw, the tutors, and the ramp. We'll talk a little bit more. You know, you've seen all the interaction, the combos, and we'll talk about the lands. And you'll see how it all comes together. Anyways, again, my name is Will from Magic, the Friendly Tavern. I just wanted to show you all my Sharuum deck, go through a deck tech of it, and kind of explain to y'all how it worked. And I thank y'all for listening. Happy pack pulls, and as always, happy games.